And here we're going to look at how to automate our vendor to join and organize committees. So I've still got the start of the expression for add to bit array open with the partially organized doc committees to the right here. We can add other reps to these committees by selecting the little plus button here and then selecting the relevant rep. We can also add ourselves, our vendor, to these committees if we wanted to join negotiations and gain access to the resulting terms. So let's say we want to have our vendor join the bit array committee for our bit array in-out DOF. We would select self as a rep from the drop-down box here, and as soon as we do that, we instantly have access to the specs and term committees associated with the catch-all outcome for the bit array committee, which in this case is 64-bit multiple. We have to at least automate for the catch-alls of committees so that our vendor doesn't ever stall a build. This is why the vendor principal pre-selects the catch-all for you. There is one spec for the bit array committee, the length of the bit array, and one term, the location of the bit array. If we jump across to the processing window, we can see that a new noun set has appeared, which is to do with our joining the bit array committee. We can see the trigger 64-bit multiple sync trigger, which represents the vendor's stance in this committee. That is, when do we want our stance to be 64-bit multiple? If there were another outcome for this committee type, which could be the case in the near future, I could automate the vendor to cater for that too, and would have another sync trigger and source event appear here as well. The first to be organized under the event which we want to trigger that particular stance, and the other representing that actual outcome as a possible event. So we now have access to the when 64-bit multiple event, and we can trigger certain things to occur off this if we like. We had previously automated that lookup supplier to be contracted when our own vendor accepts a contract, but we could now automate it to be contracted only when the outcome of this bit array committee is 64-bit multiple by changing where we've organized that sync trigger. Most committee types have only one valid outcome at present, so some of the noun organization can feel a little redundant at times. However, as new outcomes, terms, and specs are added to committees, you can get fancier with your processing to make your vendor smarter and its design more layered.